Welcome back to Burn the Ship, the podcast we connect entrepreneurs and professionals to help you go all in on your business. I'm your host, Ezra Brown, and without further ado, I'd love to let my guest introduce herself.
Hi, Ezra. Thank you so much for having me. My name
Absolutely. Thank you for joining.
is, of course, my name is Candis Melamed. I am a 20-year PR veteran specializing in the health and beauty industry and visibility coach who teaches young doctors how to do their own PR. I specialize in empowering doctors really in those first 5 years of practice, how to step into their brand and step into the spotlight so that they can avoid burnout and really have financial freedom and career success.
That's awesome. Yeah, Candace, please paint us that picture, kind of what it's looked like, for you over the last, decade or so, looking in that PR side and then kind of branching out and starting to be a visibility coach. But really kind of tell us about the PR side and we'll get into the visibility coach as we go through.
Well, as a publicist, I've been doing PR for 20 years now, believe it or not. And, but believe it or not for me, but
You
um,
don't look like you could have been doing this for 20 years.
thank you. Thank you so much, Ezra.
Welcome.
And it's really been an incredible journey. I sort of really niched very early on, specializing in health and beauty. And what that looked like for me was working with a lot of doctors in a variety of specialties, and that included also beauty products and technologies in the medical aesthetic space. So it's been quite a journey, but my niche and my specialty has really been working with doctors, a combination of bigger practices and single practice physicians, helping to really elevate them and position them as leaders in their category. So that whether that was a celebrity cosmetic dentist or a celebrity dermatologist or the president of the American Society of Plastic Surgeons before he took on that role, to really position them within the media, elevate their brand to be known as an expert. And so after having done that for nearly 20 years, I became really passionate about, recognizing that most of these doctors want to start PR and do this in about 15 years in to practicing, at the very least 10, but somewhere in the 15 to 20-year mark that they've been practicing, they really take on PR. And part of that journey is understanding their brand, or sometimes having to redevelop a brand because they never spent the time doing this. And so, as I have also, in my career, worked with younger doctors in those earlier years of practice within the agency, and sort of realized how far ahead they get when they do this work early on. So typically, when you're a new physician starting out, you don't quite have the financial resources. It's not accessible. They don't teach you any of this stuff in medical school. They don't teach you about branding or marketing or PR in medical school. So you're already at a disadvantage after your training. And it's not really financially feasible for physicians to straight out kind of hire a PR agency. So what I've
Right.
done and I've become really passionate about is wanting to give these newly practicing physicians, like I said, those doctors in their first 5 years of practice, access
Right.
to this information, access to what I have done for other doctors so that they can start earlier in their career to really brand themselves. Really, I just even understand what a brand is, how they come across, what their voice is going to be, identifying what their voice is, what are they all about, so that they can lock in and connect with the right types of patients, and in the
Right.
long term of their career have loyal patients and be able to later on, if they want to, launch a product line or a book or a podcast, to be able to monetize on the brand that they've built, rather than work for 10, 15 years and actually start feeling more burnt out than anything. And in most cases, like what we've had to do is scrap anything the doctor has done thus far and sort of
Right.
start over all over again, right? And then start teaching them that your social media and your website should really be aligned. This is how, you need to be talking, or the things you should be talking about, what story ideas look like. So a lot of the information I'm giving these younger doctors as their visibility coach are exactly the things that I do for clients on the agency side of my business.
Right, right. And that's super awesome. Like you said, early on you realized that you were kind of niche and vertical specific to what you wanted to do on that side. But what kind of made you pick that niche, in health and beauty? what kind of was that to go into that versus going into like being the face for a construction company, going to help them with their PR,
Right.
the trades world. What kind of
That's
what
a
made that shift?
That's a great question, Ezra. So for me in PR, I had done a little bit of entertainment PR, working with celebrities. I had done a little bit of corporate PR. I had represented a day spa. I had in the celebrity space, I worked with a celebrity doctor. That was really early on in my career. In fact, I think that was more of like my internship days.
Right.
And so when I started my own agency, I think the question was, what do I find interesting? What am I interested in? And having studied journalism, for me, PR fell under the journalism category. Journalism is all about asking the questions. So for me, my barometer was when I ask a lot of questions, that's the area that I'm really interested in. And I realized that with doctors and different specialties, I'm really curious. I ask a lot of questions and I'm super inquisitive. And then when
Right.
I worked with the one day spa, I thought that was just a ton of fun. And so I felt like health and beauty were a perfect balance to one another. And if I niched myself, then what I would be doing is speaking to the same writers and editors and even producers about just a lot of different clients. I could come
Right.
to the same person versus I also did some restaurant PR too in my early days. And so instead of like one day having to talk to restaurant writers and the next day a beauty writer, I would have been all over the place. Or to your point,
Right.
construction or real estate or anything like that, I would have been all over the place. So I really wanted to hone in and sort of find a category that would be more streamlined so that I wouldn't be scattered, both in my
Right.
work, but also what I would be known for. Ultimately,
Right.
my goal was to become a go-to resource for writers and editors, is
Mhm.
to know me as somebody that they can come to, whether it's a client I have or not.
Right. Yeah, no, that's super. Definitely kind of use that same thing in my day to day as well. Because like say I'm very familiar with auto world and construction world, so I can go after those guys when I'm selling merchant services, credit card process to them, and I can get their pain points and talk their lingo. So I kind of know what
Exactly.
I know what my rebuttals are. So that
Right.
definitely makes it a lot easier for you to pitch. You go pitch 500 people, you know what's probably going to come out of the 200 that are like, I don't want you at all, but you're like, I
Right.
can rebuttal that now better than if you just were specific to one industry or specific to 50 different industries.
Exactly. And like you said, you just learn the category really well. So when you understand whether it's beautiful smile or whether it's beautiful skin, when you're sort of understanding the category of beauty holistically,
Right.
and even health, then you can sort of realize like when we represented a functional medicine doctor and we were talking about the gut brain relationship, or we were talking about gut health and then how it impacts skin, then I could take that knowledge I knew and also translate it into the dermatologist I represented, right?
Right.
And sort of say, okay, well, here's what's hybriding, or what the hybrid is, and the connection between multiple specialties. So
Right.
there is a beauty in that. You just become really familiar within the category, just like you.
Right. Right. Absolutely. No, I completely 1,000% agree, and it works too. Definitely works. But you know what? God, I had it on top of my brain. It slipped away. Um, Oh yeah. So say that you're running, somebody signs up with your services and allows you to come in and kind of give their business some visibility. So via that social media, the internet, wherever their website is, are you posting for them? Are they kind of posting themselves, or you're kind of lead them in the right direction, or kind of how's that go? How does your services go?
Well, we actually work I have a communications agency, so it does PR, marketing, and social media because really all three of those work together. And if you
Right.
think about PR and social media, they are, if there's a toolbox, PR and social media are tools within the marketing toolbox. Or
1,000%.
if I use the analogy of an umbrella, marketing is the umbrella under which is social media, under which is SEO, PR, all these things together would make up marketing, right? If
Right.
does that make sense to you?
Yeah. Most definitely. Yeah.
Perfect. So where my specialty is specifically is in public relations. So it's in that earned media world where we take a client. So if a client comes to us and they want to be a leader in cosmetic dentistry, they're a
Right.
celebrity cosmetic dentist, they see celebrities. How are we going to elevate that brand? Well, what we're trying to do is come up with the story ideas that connect that expert to the writers who would write the stories and speak to them. So we're paying like matchmaker. We're coming up
Right.
with story ideas and we're saying to writers, here's an expert you need to be aware of who's a great resource for you. Here are some story ideas he or she can speak about. Why don't you two connect and write an article that we know your audience wants to know because this is trending, because of this, Jessica Simpson just went on the Ellen DeGeneres show and talked about how she doesn't like that slimy feeling after she gets her teeth cleaned, so she doesn't really get her teeth cleaned. Well, here's a dentist who can talk about why that's bad and how people pay a lot of money to get their teeth cleaned, right?
Right.
And so we're bridging those connections a lot. And by way of that, what we do is we're creating organic SEO for clients. So when people are then searching for a cosmetic dentist in their area, or they're not even in their area, they want the best cosmetic dentist to go to, who's going to come up in searches? It's going to be those clients who've been interviewed. And what happens in that is organic. It's just being filtered organically, like somebody has done the referral for you, right?
Right.
It's like the highest form of credibility you can get when you do PR. In fact, Nielsen, I believe, Nielsen came out with a report that showed 83% of consumers trust digital word of mouth more than they do content that was developed by advertisers. That is a
Hmm.
significant amount. And digital word of
Oh yeah.
mouth would be if they read in an article about this doctor who commented on some treatment or gave advice. So that would be the equivalent of that. So that's really what we do, is really showing doctors on the coaching side, showing them how to do this for themselves, and on the agency side, doing it for them, coming up with those unique story ideas that really position them as authorities.
Right. No, that's definitely something because what we hold in our hand every day, you need some visibility to grow your business nowadays. You can't just be mom and pop and put it on the flyer and the newspaper comes to your house every morning and it's like, oh, there's a list of new businesses. No,
Yeah,
nobody knows you're there until you make yourself visible.
that's right. And I always,
So
I
your
said
service
this,
is
I said this once to the head of I don't mean to cut you off, Ezra, but I said
no,
this
you're good.
to the head of a major department within a hospital. He was saying, "Oh, well, we've had this technology. We've done this treatment for years, years ahead of these two other leading hospitals, but
Right.
they've just been better about, doing the PR and talking about it, and their doctors go on TV." And I said, you could be years ahead of everybody,
Hmm.
but if nobody knows about it, you could be doing the greatest things, but if nobody knows about it, you might as well have not done it.
Right. No, I completely agree. That's why we trademark things in the in the world nowadays. You get to
That's
keep it.
right.
But and then what was one thing that that you kind of struggled with whenever you first started out, doing this 20 years ago? What was that one thing that you was like, all right, this is like the thing I know I need to work on, relationships wise, or was it in the workspace, being organized, kind of there's something everybody could do better always.
There's always something everybody can do. I believe there's always room for growth and really expanding, surrounding yourself with the people who know certain areas better than what
Right.
you know.
Right.
For me, starting the agency, you just do it. I sort of feel like when you want to start a business, you could spend all the time in the world planning and learning, but when you learn, there's just so much. It's like you go down that rabbit hole and you're constantly consuming information, which is important to do,
Right.
but then you sort of feel like you're never ready. And so I there's a belief in me that you need to sort of start before you're ready.
Right.
You get as much together as you can, and then you have to dive in.
Yeah.
So for me on the agency side, when I started my first business, it was like the business. I did not have a business set up. I wasn't like doing all the proper legal you sort of figure some things out as you contracts, you sort of figure them out as you go along, or
Right.
payment systems, you sort of figure them out as you go along. You start with checks and then that evolves.
Right.
So the business side of things was new for me. As a first-time entrepreneur, I hadn't learned that, and that wasn't something that was taught to me, and that's not something I was taught in school. Like starting a business, what are the basics? What do you need to do? You sort of just pop up and start telling people this is what I do now.
Right.
And then very similarly, when I started my coaching business, that was that was interesting and different too. So it wasn't so much of the business setup at this point. This was now my own working on my own visibility something that I am telling everybody else to do. I'm telling these other younger doctors they need to be more visible. And
Right.
here I was not launching my business because I was struggling with that. Because as a publicist, I'm very behind the scenes, and that is just so my happy place. And I couldn't do that anymore. I knew I couldn't do that anymore with the coaching business.
Right. No, and definitely. And it's definitely being hard, especially whenever you haven't had to be the visible person forever. Because I was a college athlete, and I got to be invisible, at the school all the time.
Yeah,
I got to fly under the radar until I was on the mound. People knew who I was.
that's right.
Maybe some nightlife in my lifetime, a lot back in the daytime, back then. But it was definitely something that when I went to the networking scene, it was definitely something that was just like befuddled me for sure. Like I get up there the first time, I was like, man, I threw in the conference championship game 2 years ago, and then
Yeah.
now I'm shaking in front of 60 people talking in front of them. Like, what is going on with me?
And then
I
you do
just
that
doing
first one and you're like, okay, I did that. I did that. Nothing
exactly
happened to me. I'm okay. I'm intact.
right,
And then you tackle the next one. And
it,
that's exactly what I'm talking about. You just start before you're ready, right? Because
right.
you got to jump with both feet in.
Oh yeah, no choice. You have no choice, And then, like you said, struggling at the beginning on the business aspect of sides you hear that a ton, especially doing what we do like this way, doing the podcast and things. I get to hear a ton of stuff like that, But the one thing I hear a ton from the coaching side of the world is they underprice. How many times do you underprice your service before you really figured out I'm worth more than that, like what I'm charging these people currently.
You hear that a lot, huh?
Yeah, oh yeah, because a lot of people like I undercharged for my services for so long, and I realized what everybody else was charging. I was like,
Yeah,
man,
that's more on the agency side. That's actually business development is what that is.
yeah,
And that comes
yeah,
what to me, in my opinion, of what I've noticed that comes with is just confidence.
right,
It's having done it for a little bit. When you're starting out, you're like, I'm just new and I'm just gonna do for this person or that person. You're right, you want to gain some confidence. You want to get into a flow. You want to see what it's
mm-hmm,
like. You don't want
right,
anyone to be disappointed. And then as you keep going, and I think it's also important to speak to others in your industry. That's important to have perspective, to have a coach, have a mentor. I'm a big believer in mentorship, both having a mentor and being one, to
right,
really give some guidance and give some perspective. And, you hear a lot with marketing that when you're so close to something, you're in the bottle. So you need
yeah,
to have some distance and some perspective to be able to step outside of the situation and just really look at it objectively without having an emotional connection or tie to what you're doing. I think that's really important. And that's how you sort of start to slowly realize your value and your worth, what you bring to the table. It's sort of understanding what else is going on, where you where you lie and what you do compared to other publicists. And for me, that was really I really got that feedback not from others in my industry. I actually started to get that feedback more from producers as I was speaking to media people and realizing that they would be exactly what I wanted was happening. They were coming to me for as a resource. Hey, I'm working
right,
on this story, or we have this segment and we're looking for an orthopedic surgeon. I know you don't represent one, but do you happen to know anyone? Because they know that it's not just about feeding what I'm trying to accomplish. It's really, I'm in partnership with them. I want to help them. I'm here to be of service. And after doing that for a while, the feedback I started to get slowly was, we really appreciate this. Not all publicists are like this. Not all publicists do that. And I think for a moment I was like, really? They
right.
don't? That's
Like I'm the only
interesting.
person that does this
It
for real.
seems like so common. This seems like it would be something obvious. Of
Right,
course, I'm willing to help you out. Of course, I want you to be successful as a writer, whether it's my client or not. How can
right,
I help you? We are in this
right,
together. But apparently it wasn't. And I think slowly I started to realize, wow, I bring something different to the table in the way I communicate and being responsive. Like that's something else that is core to my brand is
right.
being responsive, being anticipatory.
Absolutely.
Come to learn, not a lot of publicists are. And that was feedback I got from the writers and the editors and producers on the other end when they were sort of, oh, we so appreciate this. And I know not everybody is like this. I'm like, really? I didn't know everybody wasn't like this.
Not everybody's your boutique type of business where
Right.
they'll make sure they take care of you, because that's kind of how we say it. We're in Atlanta. There's a ton of credit card processors around us.
Yeah.
Similar to us, but not as good because we have an in-house customer service team. then we are like a boutique. We're going to take care of you because we do have real time people to call you and make sure everything's going on, not a 1-800 number you got to call anytime you got a problem and sit on a phone call, kind of
Yeah.
like that. And that's whenever I first started in this industry, when I'd run into people, I was like, who cares? Who's going to buy merchant service anyway? Well, I
Yeah.
mean, I'm a salesman by trade anyway, so it was like, well, I'm going to sell it to them regardless if they need it or not. But then it was, wait, we actually do have a really good service and a really good price points that nobody can really beat. So, and then I was like, why are people charging this amount when they could do this and still make good margin? And then they're like, this is why we grow our business a lot faster than nobody else. And I was like, that makes a lot of sense now. I was like,
That's
just because we're
exactly what
doing the
sets you
things,
apart.
teach people how to read statements. Like nobody ever teaches you how to read a credit card process a statement
Yeah.
because they don't want you to be able to read it whenever it comes to
Right.
you because they're gonna go up on your fees and stuff. They call you and they're like, my process went up, man. I'm tired. I'm trying to sign up now, and I'm like, I told you that 6 months ago. But look, I'm glad you're coming back
Yeah.
now.
There is
But definitely,
exactly. People don't want to be held accountable. And it's just like you. That's what I provide, the high touch service. You provide
yep,
that high touch service. You go above and beyond. You're willing to take the time to explain things, not just sell. It's not just about selling or keeping your job. It's just about informing, empowering, and educating your client. Because you know
absolutely, and
with
you keep
that
them for longer.
you become a resource for them. They know that
Mm-hmm.
they can come to you for questions. They can come to you and ask you even something that might be outside the scope of, it might be related, but outside the direct scope of what you do. And
Right, absolutely,
I really believe that that's key. And I think no matter what business I've had and done, I really believe in that high touch service.
absolutely, because it helps you retain people and it helps them. It's easier because that segment is right to my next question is, but it helps you grow your business through automatic word of mouth referrals without
Absolutely.
even having to be that visible. You know what I mean? It's just because of what you're doing for these people, the first class service you give them
100%.
goes long ways. And then if you're in small communities, like say you're in a small community here around Atlanta, like outside and like 30, 40 miles outside of Atlanta,
Yeah.
if you set one bad expectation in that little town, the whole town, every time you go somewhere, they're gonna be like, oh, I've seen a Facebook post about you, or I've talked to this person
Yeah.
about you, because it's small towns. Everybody, all business owners know each other in those places,
And it doesn't
only
even have to be
populated
a
by
small
10,
town.
15,000. So
Yeah,
and
it
then
doesn't even have to be a small town. It's a small community or small industry. It's a small industry. I mean,
right,
let's face it, there's only a handful if no matter where you go or what you do. So your reputation will precede you. I 100% agree with that. And word of mouth is exactly how I've built my agency, how I built my entire business for 20 years. Reputation and word of mouth. I've always believed just do the good work, be a good person. I've never been one to go after awards and accolades and submit for this and submit for that. I
right,
sort of feel like no, my work speaks for itself. The reputation with my clients and the relationships, being able to represent clients for 3 years, 5 years, 7, 10 years, in some cases 15 years, that alone speaks
right,
volumes. And
thousand
and
percent,
and again, not just for a lot of them, not just knowing what they do and working with them on a business aspect, but I've gotten a chance to know their families or how they've grown or their kids have grown up. I become more invested. I am
right.
invested because it's, what goes on in your personal life also affects the things that you're passionate about, that you want to speak about, and, could impact your brand. So it's all tied in together.
Absolutely, yeah. Have you done any network and grow your business through time or no?
In the beginning, yes. In the beginning, I found myself anywhere and everywhere. I just told people when I first started my agency and I didn't have a client, I just started talking to anybody and everybody who would listen. And I told them exactly what I did. And I told them what I did it for. So in the beginning, I worked with doctors, I worked with day spas, so I'm really in the health and beauty industry, and I do PR. I'm a publicist. Like meanwhile, I started my own agency and didn't have a client, and I really did that until I got my first client, and from there, it was all referrals and word of mouth that's carried me for the last 20 years.
That's awesome. You got to fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
But no, that is super awesome though, especially just being able to grow your business and just in one form of really referral based of word of mouth. That is super super awesome because
Thank you.
networking can be a lot. It takes a lot of time.
It,
You almost have to hire somebody to do your job for you or go network for you, and you want
Well, it's
it to
the
be you,
investment you make in your business and in yourself, right? And it's
thousand
you
percent.
don't want to network and then not be able to follow through on it if someone does call you. And I mean, it's really relationships are a lot
Oh
of
yeah.
do, and it could come from the most unusual of places. So it's
Mm-hmm.
not always just a networking event where you're going to walk in and say, "What can I get out of here? Who can I meet? Who can help me?" That could
Right.
be you could meet somebody at a wedding, at a
Yeah.
party, at an
Yep.
event, just by way of talking, and they may not even be related to your industry, but they just might
Mm-hmm.
happen to know somebody who needs a service you offer. And so that's why
Right.
it's great to just talk about it, not like you're always selling yourself, but you're speaking about it as like, this is what
Mm-hmm.
I do, and
Yeah.
bring some levity to the conversation.
Right. Because that comes up in almost every adult conversation. If you don't know somebody, if you get 5 minutes in a conversation, they're gonna be like, "What do you do for a living?" You
Yeah.
know, especially if you're in like a very lax setting. You know,
Yeah.
not on the golf course. You're on the golf course, something nobody cares. You're out there talking about
Yeah.
God knows what and doing God knows what. But
Right.
no, if you're definitely in like a wedding or you're at a gathering, you know, of friends or mutual people,
Yeah.
definitely gonna come up and be like, what have you been doing? You know, I ain't seen you in 10 years. What do you got going on nowadays? If they don't already know, so that's
Right.
definitely something I can relate to. But no, what was the one thing that you did really well when you first started that you could kind of lean on, like that one skill you had?
I think for me, the one thing I did really well was just the things I said were core to my brand, being responsive
Mm-hmm.
and being anticipatory. So my thought was always, how can I make this other person's life as easy as possible? Instead of having 20 emails that go back and forth, I can send one email with these 5 questions that can get me the information I need so that I can get back to them with everything they need and sort of hand it all over on a silver platter.
Right.
Really thinking through and, like I said, be anticipate what they're going to ask me next, what they might want, whether that was on the client side or on the media side. So either any relationship that I was really in, I think it was being highly responsive was a big one, and being able to follow through. So if you can't
Right.
be reliable, if you're going to be inconsistent and you fall, respond sometimes, but not all the time. You do this one thing sometimes, but not all the time, then you're
Mm-hmm.
not really building your brand effectively. What you do, whether you're thinking about yourself as a brand or not, you are
Right.
one. And
Oh
so
yeah.
the question is, are you conscious about it, or is the tail wagging the dog, as I say? So you never want to build your brand in the dark. What you do when you build a business, how you present yourself, how you engage with everybody is ultimately speaking volumes to who you are and what people can expect when they work with you.
1,000,000%. Yeah, 1,000,000%. Because this is your biggest billboard right here.
Yeah. Oh, well, and also your mind and your
Yeah.
personality.
Oh yeah. Well,
Yeah.
this what's inside the grape controls everything that you do
Oh,
day to day.
100%. That's right.
Controls when you go to sleep, when you wake up, if you want to hit snooze on that alarm one more time, or if you want to
Right.
get up and actually start your day. You know, if you set it for
Right.
5 o'clock, are you gonna snooze till 5:30? You're gonna get up at 5 o'clock. Which one you want to do?
Right.
It sucks getting up at 5 o'clock day that, but it's fun. Fun once you get your day going. But no, I appreciate you coming. Coming on and sitting and talking with me. It's been awesome.
My
But
pleasure.
please tell the people where to find you.
The people can find me at on Instagram at the Spotlight Method. They can find me, they can email me directly at Candice at thespotlightmethod.com. And I spell my name a little different. It's Candis. And the website is thespotlightmethod.com.
That's awesome, Candice. Thank you so much for joining us and burn the ship.
Thank you so much, Ezra. Thank you for having me.